Welcome. You're listening to the Best of Investing on Talk 910. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. And for those of you listening for the first time, because we have a lot of new listeners, here's our format. A few people sitting around a bar having drinks without the drinks, talking business with you, the audience listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender, Catherine Harris of Karate and Karad, and Robert Schiff. See, I get those two mixed up. Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. And our phone number is 888-912-1190. Write that number down, 888-912-1190, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. Today's trivia theme is Las Vegas, or Lost Wages for all of you non-gamblers out there. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out and hit the like button, please, at Facebook. Actually, I shouldn't say that. That's not very professional to ask people to like you, right?
Visit us.
Visit us. There we go. Thank you very much. Also, YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. Also on television, Comcast Channel 26 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. Before we officially start the show, I need to tell you how much fun my family and I had at iFly in Union City yesterday. Now, I showed you guys some of the pictures, and you really do fly because it's indoor skydiving. See, I wouldn't jump out of an airplane.
There you go. Takes the risk out of it,
That
doesn't
sounds
it?
like a lot of fun.
Well, it is a lot of fun. Trust me, you will have a great time. Mark, let's get in right with you. You found a very interesting article you want to share with us.
Well, let's start the show with a little bit of real estate news of the week. And so this past week there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that was titled Bay Area Rally Sends Rents Soaring. And it talks about how rent increases have investors rushing to purchase properties. Well, that's really not news, right? But what was interesting about this article is it starts out by saying, when Alexandra Goldman got notice of her rent increase on the 5-bedroom house she shares with roommates, she was in disbelief. Now, this is a 5-bedroom house in San Francisco, which we know is expensive, so
She's got to run at least $2,000 a month.
well,
she
was paying
for her share.
For her share.
Exactly.
right. Well, no, okay, so this
Her
is San
half room.
Francisco.
Imagine she shares the room.
So 5-bedroom house in San Francisco, she was paying $6,000. Guess what the new rent?
No, that's not her portion. That was for the
That was for the whole house.
Oh, okay, there we go.
So the whole house, $6,000. She's sharing the cost. They're, I guess, renting out rooms among the 5 bedrooms.
And would it go to 8,000?
I would say 8.
No, 9,700.
$11,000.
Now wait, isn't there rent control in San Francisco?
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah,
Especially in San Francisco.
As everything in real estate, it depends.
It depends,
when.
yes.
It depends, first of all, when the property was built, so that if it was built after a certain date, even if it's a 4-unit building, it's exempt.
Really?
Oh.
And I think that if it's a single-family residence, it may be exempt if it's not units.
Yeah. So the article goes on to say, welcome to what is arguably the worst city in America to be a renter, but among the best to be a landlord. So,
Well, that just supports what we've been seeing in the real estate market. For the last couple months, 2 years maybe, you can see that the people who are purchasing properties are not generally first-time home buyers. It's investors. They're the ones who are able to put the 100% capital, that 100% down.
Yeah.
And look what the rated return you're getting.
So 6,000 to 11,000? That's, I mean, they have a right on it.
The question is, did they intend to get that, or did they intend to have no renters?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, then they're going to get people out, and they're going to get 12,000.
Well, no, or they're going to move into it personally.
Yes, yeah.
Interesting.
But
I guess that could be because they did not get the landlord to comment on that rent increase. So maybe that was it. Maybe that was fueling it. So it could be just an aberration. But, you know, I think we've all seen rents are rising, and they're rising fastest in cities, of course, with the tightest supply of housing, like the Bay Area. And there was an article we talked a few shows back about how there was a survey done among the public as to what's behind the increases in the real estate prices, and the vast majority of them blamed it on real estate investors. Now, at the time, I disagreed with that I didn't think, like 25% said, oh, it's real estate investors are causing this surge in prices. And, And in fact, I think it's, it's Econ 101, it's supply and demand. We've got tight supply and we've got a high demand. We've got low interest rates. Money is, well, not as free as it used to be. It's going up a little bit in cost. We'll talk to Robert about that later. But certainly, we're all waiting for more inventory to come on the market. And the article, again, Wall Street Journal being usually has very well-written articles. They do talk about the fact that tight supplies have unleashed a torrent of new construction permits in the Bay Area, so stay tuned.
And it's funny, because when all the houses went into foreclosure and people lost their primary residence and it was bought either or off the market and eventually either rented out by banks, which they didn't do very often, or bought by an investor to rent out, we thought there would suddenly be a surge of rental properties available, because a lot of the houses that have been owner-occupied were now for rent, and it might depress the rental market. And instead, the opposite has happened. All the people who owned houses and were homeowners and lost their houses, a significant percentage of them are still renters waiting to get their credit cleared out or a job back, or for whatever the multitude of possible reasons are for them to be able to qualify for a loan again with the new Dodd-Frank laws that make it harder to qualify for a loan. So a lot of those people are renters and probably in some cases have given up in the near future being homeowners. So
Well,
there's
Robert, do you think that that's going to change? Do you think Dodd-Frank somehow things will loosen up?
Oh, what a
Or-
great, what a.
It's kind of hard to put
how
the
long,
toothpaste
how
back
long,
in the tube.
how long is the show? I mean, the
You got
Simple
6 months, go
simple
ahead.
answer.
the Glass-Steagall Act was about
Yeah,
17 pages, and it did its job perfectly for about 70 years.
Yeah.
And when President Clinton kicked it out,
Yeah.
we had problems commensurate with that. And when they put the Dodd-Frank law in, it's about 1,200 pages. And out of those 1,200 pages, I'd say not even a third of the regulations in there have been instituted yet.
New and improved.
Wow.
Interesting. So, in
And
other
coming.
words, things are not going to get easier.
That's right. Yeah.
And what's also impacting this with renters is that this is the area where jobs are being created. The Bay Areas, San Jose, that's where any jobs that have been created in the last year, 2 years, that's where it is. It's not in manufacturing. It's not in other areas. It's in these concentrated metropolitan areas. So though there may be a depressed rental market in other areas, San Francisco Bay Area has a high demand or influx of people coming in for jobs.
There's no question about
Oh yeah,
that.
technology's on fire in San Francisco.
And all the
right
young
now.
people that are working in the peninsula and the tech, a lot of them, that's why, don't want to be after work. They don't want to be in San Mateo. They want to be in San Francisco. And
Why?
They're 23.
How old are you?
You remember where you wanted to be when you were 23?
Yes.
The desire is still there. It's just that. So that you see the buses lined up. Even when I drive down to Mill Valley from San Rafael in the morning, there are buses at the shopping centers waiting, say Genentech or Google, waiting to take everybody there so that they can not have to worry about the commute. In San Francisco, in the city, it's much more prevalent. The real estate in the city didn't get hit as hard as any of the other areas in the Bay Area, and they're going up as high. It's just that the city is incredibly strong. The East Bay and Marin County and the South Bay are also very strong. I mean, the increase in rents is phenomenal, and that means that if you're an investor and you're looking at units, you're just looking at a return on your investment, and if the rents are going to go up 20%,
Or in this case,
that's
83.3%.
that's incredible leverage.
I saw you do the math there on your calculator.
Yeah, Jay, you're not that. Come on. People are listening on the radio. They think I just have this in my head. I got a little abacus going on there. Okay, we're going to cut to our first commercial break. And again, the theme is Las Vegas. What is the name of the casino with the bright light pointing up to the sky? And apparently that's one of the few things that can be seen from space.
Ooh.
I thought that was
Really?
kind of interesting, yeah. The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. What is the name of the casino with the bright light pointing up to the sky? One more time, 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, your email address, speak slowly, spell out your email letter one letter at a time, and we'll be right back. Okay.
Yeah,
Just
let's
over
go
there.
back. Okay.
Okay, ready?
Wait, did I say
Go.
Comic? I didn't mean
Financial ec.
that.
Ready?
Take it.
You need that?
Oh, sure,
Or does that mess you up?
Go ahead, give me that.
Oh, like,
Okay.
That's right.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn, Catherine Harris, and Robert Schiff. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What is the name of the casino, because the theme is Las Vegas, what is the name of the casino with the bright light pointing up to the sky? And if you're one of those mosquitoes, don't look at the light.
Well, it's a black pyramid, and
Yes.
I don't remember the name.
I don't know the name.
I agree.
The Luxor.
Oh,
With
yes.
the
See, we're not
Sphinx.
gamblers here, you
Egyptian.
can tell.
Yeah,
That's true.
I've only been to Las Vegas 3 times in my life.
Oh, you gotta go back.
Fun.
I was pregnant the last time too. How
That,
exciting
yeah,
is
that's
that?
not quite. That's not so fun. Catherine, you have an interesting article you wanted to share with us.
Well, I kind of wanted to get your gentleman's perspective on this. Financial literacy. When I growing up in grammar school, middle school, high school, education on just basic financial information, how a credit card works, how student loans work, how to reconcile a bank statement was never taught at all.
Well, you know what? I did teach at a high school, and
Yes.
I invented for them a class to teach them and time value of money and all that, and they really did appreciate
You were probably the
that.
only one who ever taught a class like
Well,
that. in
I
high
looked
school.
at the curriculum and I said, you know what? God, would you guys be interested in having me come in and just teach? I typed the
You may
It's a-
teach something that's appropriate for the rest of their life.
Well, and you know what?
Exactly.
And that's
Novel
exactly how I
concept.
brought it up to him.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? How sometimes science teachers or history teachers or whatever will say, okay, my class is very, very important, and I'll tell you. And I went in there. I said, well, that is important. I said, but my class is the most important class because everything I teach you, you will learn. You will use every single
Every
day
single
of your
day.
life.
And there was an article recently about the financial literacy of Americans compared to other countries and how it's gone down in recent years. And I was kind of curious to see what you had when you guys were growing up. What was it like for you? Whether you had that financial literacy in part of your education, or
Well, when I was a
it
kid,
missing? Because I
the
think
number
it's something that
system-
needs
so
to
when-
happen.
When I was a kid, the number system was 1, 2, and more than 2 because there weren't more numbers than
yes.
2. I was kind of old.
You were using abacuses.
Yes.
Oh wow! Okay. And where
There weren't credit cards.
Really? When you were little? Oh, I guess
I don't
no. They
think there
started
were
in the
credit cards.
'60s, right? That's a
Yeah.
good point. In fact, mortgages were only about 7 years when I was really little.
Wow.
And then they eventually came out with the 30-year mortgage. and
Yes.
all that, yeah.
I mean, and the impact, you can see it now, is in student loans, where the default rate has gone up so significantly, and it's because of the lack of education surrounding the
Free
student
money,
loans.
right? They're just
Exactly.
telling me they
But-
they're
but-
giving you money. You don't have to pay it back.
Let me ask, if those people had been educated about the student loans, what would be the difference? If they're going to school and hoping to get a certain kind of job at Wall Street or whatever it is that was more available than it is now, so they accrued $100,000 or $80,000 or $200,000 in debt, assuming that they would get out of college and get a job making enough to cover that and be in the middle class. Now they find out, to their surprise, and nothing that could have prepared them for it, that job's not there, or the job is there but it's half the pay, and they can't go back to the people that lent
That's a
them the
long
money for the
story. That's a
student.
long question.
That's a lot of exceptions. I mean, but
Well,
just to
I mean,
educate
I
them.
mean, what could they have done differently? Are you going to
In
have
other
a
words,
couple $100,000
Right, the
in
cost of
student
schooling
loans?
has gone through the roof.
But
That's a
then
fact.
that's where you choose not to go to a private school. It's understanding the
That's a good
difference
point.
between what you can afford and what you can afford.
Of course, what do they know what the
Just
job
make them
market's
aware
gonna
of what
be?
it's going to, well,
Yeah.
they can't,
Exactly.
but at least make them aware that, because when I went to school, student loans, everybody knew that they didn't have to repay them and defaulted on them.
Really? Oh my gosh!
that
No, I
drove
when
me-
I know
drove
I
me-
got them, it
drove
was
me
3%.
crazy.
It was
Drove
3%
me
interest, and
crazy.
I just assumed you have to pay them back. You know, I mean, there's the same thing with like credit cards. A lot of people, I'll just keep charging, and I'll just pay the minimum payment. I mean, there is education that needs to be really had. In fact, I think eventually didn't they come out with page 2 of the credit card that says if you pay the minimum payment, it'll take you 320 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, otherwise people wouldn't do
17
it.
years. Do you realize that sweater is going to cost you $300 rather than $50? But exactly that, and I think people actually some businesses have been, or universities or private universities or special universities that are training people to be go into catering or to get a special certificate. You pay $5,000 or $10,000 for this program, but they don't communicate that when you get out, they'll say you could earn up to $50,000, but and that's only for 5% of the people who graduate. It's the 95% are going to be graduating. You're going to be earning $10 an hour
And asking those 6 questions. Would you like fries with that?
Exactly, and they don't realize that if you make XYZ dollar, or we'll say $15 an hour, take into consideration interest, etc., rent, what you have left to pay for your for any loans is substantially less than what you think that you could have.
Well, Catherine, the article you brought in talks about, or opines, whether financial illiteracy is exacerbating the student loan crisis. And I don't really know that it is. I think I agree a little bit with Robert. I mean, the fact of the matter is that just about any UC or California college that, we looked at for our daughter, it's $50,000 a year. I mean, you could, either that or go to JC, right? So if you're going to go to a real 4-year, sorry about that if you're a JC student, but
I was a JC
a 4-year
Well, so was
student.
college.
You don't get a BA going to a JC.
They
Right,
were,
exactly.
yes, but you go for 2 years, and
That's right.
that's called that's the smart decision to make, because you just
Actually,
saved
you're right.
for 2
I did
years
too.
that
I went to Santa
$50,000.
Rosa JC for 2 years,
Yeah.
got all the junk courses out of the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Then I got
But
my
still,
degree.
still, the fact is to get a college
Yeah.
education
You have
is
to.
so much more expensive
Yes.
compared to what people are earning and the parents are earning, that it's a whole different story than it was a decade ago.
But there's
or
also
20 or 30
scholarships
years.
too. I mean, there's some
Even
grants.
including that. That's why, to my understanding, and it shocked me, is this student loan debt is way higher than the total credit card debt in this country.
Is that right?
It is the
Wow.
single highest
Well, you know what?
debt.
I
And
could
it
see that
can't
because
be
it costs
bankrupted.
$100,000, let's say, for
Yes.
someone, and yet the credit cards are.
But everybody
5,000,
charges, and not
2,000.
everyone's a student, so it shocked me.
Wow. Yeah.
It's the highest
Yeah,
single-
but when someone has a student loan, they have 50,000 or 100 or 200,000
Right,
in
it's
debt.
big usually.
Yeah,
It's
versus credit
huge.
cards might be 500, 200,
Yes.
1,000. or
Usually
whatever.
those people who are getting credit cards at a young age do not have the credit limit to charge up $100,000
This is
that
probably a
quickly.
huge windfall for the government when people do pay off. I mean, because the interest rates when I went to school, even though the interest rate environment was 20%, because I went to school in the late 70s, early 80s, the interest rate they gave us for student loans was 3%.
Oh, that's
I mean,
a
It still
steal.
is.
No.
No.
It's 7%.
It was.
Maybe
It went
for
from 3.4 to
undergraduate.
6.8 because it was the windfall. Unless we can decide on something, it's going to double. And it wasn't the first time that Congress couldn't decide on something recently.
I thought
So,
they did it in session every day.
Yeah.
Yes, they
All in agreement.
So,
They
so
agreed
it
to
doubled.
disagree.
Now
We're gonna
now they're
continue.
talking about not doubling it, and they're wanting to uncouple it and lower it from 6.8 to something that's commensurate with the markets.
Yeah, but what's something about the default? If you default, what's the penalty? But weren't you saying it's just astronomical?
No. What I was saying that we actually talked about this a few weeks ago on the show. I had an article about how high a percentage of default student loans are.
Oh, you
It's
mean
double
you
what it
think
was a
there's
year
default
ago.
interest?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they start
I don't
charging
think there is.
interest and more fees, and it's just not pretty.
It's got to cover the people who.
And
Yeah,
unlike
hard-
unlike
hard
even credit, that you can't get away from it by filing bankruptcy.
Yeah.
There's no way to
It
get
never
out of
goes
a credit
away.
card of a student loan debt.
And I'm not sure that might be part of the illiteracy surrounding it, is that the people don't realize that you cannot get rid of it. There are exceptions to pay, if you do work for a government agency or a nonprofit for
Oh,
a certain period of
Yeah,
time.
of
Yeah.
course.
There's
If you work for
always
the
exceptions.
government,
But
or if you're
yes,
a senator
so-
for a father.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But people don't realize the amount of time and energy it takes to pay it off and how you cannot get rid of it.
Yeah, you're stuck.
Yes.
You're stuck like glue. Okay, we're going to cut to our second commercial break. When we come back, we got some very interesting emails for our panelists here, because we have 3 of them. Okay, the theme is Las Vegas. What is the name of the Las Vegas airport? The first 3 callers. See, a lot of people think I was going to ask really easy questions like, what's another name for blackjack? 21, But that's not it. It's what is the name of the Las Vegas airport? Of course, Mark goes there a lot for business, so he knows. Don't touch that dial because the best of investing will be right back.
Don't touch that dial.
Welcome back to the best of investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with our co-hosts Mark Hoff of Pacific Private Money, Catherine Harris of Parati and Karad, and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. When we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Again, the theme is Las Vegas. What is the name of the Las Vegas airport? Anybody?
Mark,
So
Do you have some Irish in you?
McCarran.
McCarran, that is
jeez.
correct. Okay. And we're going to get right into email
be
time.
Okay.
Okay. Robert, we're going to start with you. What can you do for me as a broker that I can't do for myself? What have you done for me lately?
I assume that was in terms of mortgage lending.
That is correct.
I'm Robert Schiff. I'm a mortgage broker with RPM Mortgage. RPM Mortgage is a mortgage bank, and that means we don't have any windows where you can deposit. Our business is lending on residential units, primarily in California, although we're licensed in other states. If you go to a bank, if you go to a large bank or small bank to get a loan, you are subject to their rules and their rules only. If you go to a broker, you're subject to whatever banks they have affiliations with. If you go to RPM Mortgage, a mortgage bank, we, besides being the second biggest lender in the Bay Area to Wells Fargo, we can fund the loan ourselves and then turn around and sell it to many numbers of different banks or other lending institutions that you probably haven't heard of, or credit unions.
But that doesn't matter.
Or-
Once you get the loan, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Well, yeah, or we can go directly to a lot of different banks if for whatever reason they have a better deal for your specific plans than RPM could do. We can fund the loan, or we can take it, we can broker it to other banks.
Okay.
So,
you kind of give them the best of both worlds. Then.
Yes, so you have the most options, and usually, almost all the time, our rates are at least as good as whatever bank you might walk into.
Okay. That sounds very
But how
good.
fast are you closing loans these days, Robert?
If it's a purchase and the contract says that it's got to close within 20 days, we can accomplish that. We have a special.
Wow.
What kind of rates are you looking at for 15 and 30?
They're a lot higher. They're about
Yeah.
3/4 to 1% higher than they were. So.
But that's the
people-
whole market. That's not
That's
you
that's
guys
across the
purposely.
board. Yeah. So a 30-year fixed conforming loan might be in the 4.25%, 4.5% range. It
Okay.
just really depends on
That's still
what you're.
really good.
Yeah.
As I tell
That's
people,
not 3.5,
they're
but-
much worse than they were 2 and 3 and 4 months ago, and better than they've been for the last 40 years, except for those few months.
Yeah,
So-
There you
that's
go.
a good point. So Robert, I know you have been in the business for a long time too, right?
I have been mortgage broker for over 20 years, and before then was in residential real estate.
Okay, so you got quite a bit of knowledge. All right, thank you. And Catherine, you are a CPA,
That's
Certified
right.
Public Accountant.
Correct.
Okay, so here we have an email. It says, I heard you on the show last month and was curious, since you're a CPA, what kind of suggestions you would have to protect against embezzlement by any of my employees?
Wonderful question.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm going to direct my answer to somebody who is with a small business. When you are an owner of a small business and you have between 2 or 3 employees up to 50 employees, because usually, but when you have that size of an organization, you generally have a small number of staff that's in your accounting department. Really, at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you 3 or 4 simple tips that are most important for any business to have. Really, when it comes to it, someone's going to take money before you get the money into your bank account, and then they're going to try to take the money out of your bank account.
Oh.
So, how do you figure out whether, easy one, how the money went out of your bank account? You should always get your bank statements. Don't have somebody else open it, or have somebody who your bookkeeper or anybody else on your staff do that. Or they can, but you get a copy, maybe one sent to your house, or one directed to you, and make sure you look at that bank statement and look at the checks that were written. Look at what was actually, who were they written to? What amounts were they written to for?
Any withdrawals, you can see where
exactly.
they go.
That's what you want to know. That's how somebody will take the money out of your account.
Okay.
Same thing with payroll is if you you want to look at your payroll. Look at their payroll reports, not before their process, after. That tells you what actually happened. Who did you pay? How much did you pay them? Are they being paid what they're supposed to be paid? Who is this person I don't know?
Who are these employees? Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know they got a raise. Look at those things. Those are things you can't think about it as your own money, it's your own bank account. You want to look to see what is there that is not supposed to be
It
there.
reminds me of the MASH episode with Captain Tuttle.
Yes.
This guy never existed, and yet he was getting paid. Okay.
And he must have had a wonderful life.
Yeah.
Driving around in a BMW.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And then when it comes to the cash in, you just want to look and say what cash, that's the harder one, is what cash should be in there that's not. And that one you have to use your judgment. You know, how was my month? What was I expecting to get in? Am I getting a big grant in? A deal's about to be signed? Is there a loan that's closing? Look to see if things make sense, and you sit back and think about it. If you don't put any effort into it, you're not going to get anything out of it.
Sure,
you may not
'cause
find
some of
anything.
your customers' accounts might have been written down
Yeah.
for that.
Is it that common a practice you find in a lot of businesses for somehow money to trickle off when it shouldn't?
Oh, yes. I just saw an article in the Marin IJ with a local nonprofit where somebody was taking the cash and changing the deposits.
Yeah, that's how we caught an embezzler one time, especially when they go on vacation. That's why you make mandatory vacations, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So Catherine, you know what I found a really useful tool is, I really like using for the accounting for my business is QuickBooks Online. And the reason I like it, even though it's not quite as powerful as the desktop version of QuickBooks, but I can log in from any computer, especially my home computer, to the account, and I can just go through the check register. And it's really simple to that way, and I can see what's going in out of my account, and it's not because if it's not convenient, if you have to literally sit at your bookkeeper's desk and load their version, if it's not something you can easily do on a regular basis, that's when you're going to get in trouble potentially for embezzlement.
Yeah, I will say one thing. What problem with QuickBooks is she might have written that check to herself or himself and then changed it in QuickBooks. So you're looking at something in QuickBooks, you will never see that. So that's where it's important to see, independent of anybody in your organization, is get that bank statement directly from the bank. Get that payroll report directly from the payroll service provider and look and see what actually happened. Though that's great. Get on whenever you have time and look. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Don't have the same employee open up the checks,
But-
reconcile the bank statement.
Exactly.
But most people
But a
are
lot of
so
people are so small that can't happen,
they
which
trust
is
that.
fine. You have to do that, but then there's these 2 or 3 key things that can be performed that mitigate a significant amount of those risks.
I was just going to say, most people are so busy in their business, they delegate the bookkeeping to someone else and rely on their.
Just put
honesty.
cameras everywhere, including
Exactly,
the bathroom,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, what also it's a great. I mean, that's the problem is when you start to own your own business, you want to be in the business. You want to do what you've loved and wanted to do. But the
Yeah.
problem is when you run a business, you're running a business.
You're too busy to do,
You've
yeah.
got to do your business, and you've got horrible thing.
No.
But you've
Okay.
got to take care of at least looking over it.
Well, it's
So-
sad because there's so many businesses, mom and pop shops, that literally go under because someone decided to steal because it was a little too easy, and whatever reason, they snorted it or they just bought expensive vacations, and rarely do they invest it in the stock market, make a lot of money.
Yes, you
and then-
can't
like Bernie Madoff.
recover
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah, like Bernie Madoff. So, Catherine, you work for Parati and Karad.
I work for Parati and Karad. We are a firm, a full-service CPA firm in Larkspur, California. We also do test work, so if you need an audit or a review for your bank, if you've got a line of credit, we can help you with
Or
that.
I could see potentially someone listening to the show might call you and say, I've heard about these internal control things
Yes.
you're talking about embezzlement. I'm not your client yet, but could we hire you as a consultant to come in and tell us what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
I
Great
could
idea.
sit down for half a day and give you recommendations and changes and things with observations. And some of them are going to be financial in nature. Other are just, hey, you're only earning. Well, at one point you could have earned 3-4% on your interest. Now it's not that much, but we can make observations that you may not be investing correctly, or
Okay.
Think of something else to save you some money.
All right, Catherine Harris, CPA. Okay, we're going to cut to our third and final trivia question. We come back. We got an excellent email for Mark. Okay, here is the trivia question, and again, the theme is Las Vegas. This one's a little easier. What are the 3 colors on a roulette wheel? To answer this question. In fact, they should have for July 4th changed them to red, white, and blue. That would have been fun, but that's not the right answer. What are the 3 colors on a roulette wheel? Make sure to include your name, your email address. Speak slowly. Spell out your email 1 letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because we're also going to have some fun thoughts at the end of the day. But then when we come back, we're going to get to Mark's email. Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. One more second. Okay, go ahead on the set. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn, Catherine Harris, and Robert Schiff. When we cut to the third commercial break, we ask this trivia question. What are the 3 colors on a roulette wheel? Mark, what's the answer?
Wait, hold on. I gotta tell you something. This tells you how nerdy a CPA I am. I take such little risk that I don't even know this. Like, I can't even tell you how to play blackjack.
Okay.
So I actually know black and white, but I was gonna say red. No, but it's black, red, and I don't see black.
You proved it.
See that? Yeah,
You proved it.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Black and green.
Red, black, and green. That is correct. Now, can you at least tell us what state Las Vegas is in?
Nevada.
There you go.
Okay, finally got one question. Right.
No vacation giveaways for that answer, though.
I know.
Okay, Mark, we got an email for you that I thought was kind of interesting. It says, with real estate rising and buyers scooping up properties, are you still able to find any good fix and flip deals?
Well, great question. My company, Pacific Private Money, is a hard money lender to real estate investors based here in the Bay Area. And so I'm not personally actively out seeking real estate, but I've got lots of clients. And I got to tell you, the deal flow, meaning the loan applications I'm getting from real estate investors, other than the typical summer slowdown, because every July and August our applications go down a little bit, but really not that unusually low, and we're still seeing a lot of applications in. And so and I personally know a lot of our borrower clients, and a lot of them are repeat clients, and I'm talking to them because I kind of want to know what's out there, because I do hear anecdotally in the industry that a lot of real estate investors, particularly ones that have come kind of back in the market recently and say, oh, the market's hot, it's definitely turned around, it's now time for me to get back into real estate investing. Well, those guys, generally speaking, are having trouble getting or finding or getting their offers accepted. Okay. And so particularly if all you're doing is really going off the MLS, let me just tell you that the successful real estate investors that I know today are finding deals that are off the MLS. They're actively
How do they find them?
Well, they're actively pursuing people
that are not
who are
on the okay.
That are not these are not MLS deals.
Okay.
Generally speaking, the best deals are found off the market. They're found by people who are in some state of foreclosure or pre-foreclosure. And of course, you can subscribe to a number of lists that will give you that information. And so, if you can find someone that's a short sale,
do investors get that by those
they
subscriptions?
do. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And so, and not only they, but they'll have their own bird dogs, people who work for them for a fee that will run around and look up that information and then try to contact those families and negotiate and write lots of offers or make lots of offers. So really the key is for a real estate investor in this market to find deals in a tight market is to have the education to know how to pursue those off-market properties. And there are a number of training programs here in the Bay Area and in California that will, for a fee of course, will teach you how to do that. I'm not advocating.
You can recommend some of those, I imagine.
Well, I could, yes. If you called me, I don't want to do it on the air because they're not paying us. So. For a fee.
Sorry.
But they're
that three-letter word.
Yeah, fee.
I just met a guy actually this week who called me, who is in a kind of a related industry, kind of works with HUD clients and helps negotiate short sales. And he called me to tell me that he has access to a number of deals, and did I have any buyers? And of course, I've got plenty of buyer clients. I've got borrower clients, and if I help a borrower client find a deal, then they'll come to me for a loan. So yeah, I've been able to hook up some people just through my database, and that makes for a win for everybody. I get to do a loan, they get to buy a property, and the guy who had the deal gets to earn a fee.
And
So
everybody's
it's,
happy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not,
And
the inventory's there. It's just it seems like it's a little bit more legwork.
So
that's
these
involved.
properties are properties that are in pre-foreclosure. Either the people are still living in them and trying to hold the bank back from foreclosure, trying to work out a modification, or are they vacant and
Some are,
the copper
it's
is
a
no
little of
longer in the
everything.
wall?
Yeah, it's a
or-
little of everything. You're talking vacant houses that the bank is not yet kind of positioned themselves for whatever reason on their balance sheet to sell it. And because there are actually quite a few vacant properties in the Bay Area that are bank owned, but not on the market. Well, how do you get access to those? Well, some people have the secret keys to the vault. So, and it's really, you need to do a little bit more work. It's a little bit more effort. There's look, there's no easy money in real estate, even though it seems like it when you're reading the paper about real estate prices are up 22%. You think, dang, if I only bought a year ago. But there's always money to be made in real estate if you work at it. There's always areas you can go, or places or people you can go to learn how to find inventory, and people are in the business of teaching how to do that. So
how do people get a hold? Oh,
Go ahead. I was going to say, where do you specialize? Is it just the Bay Area? Are you more statewide?
I specialize in the Bay Area. Yeah, I've been in the real estate market in the local Bay Area here for a number of years, and so that's our specialty. So for more information, because I know we're running a little bit towards the top of the hour here, and you could look at our website. So we provide financing for people looking to buy, fix, and flip real estate. Oh, and I might as well add too, while I'm at it, we fund those loans with private individual capital. So if you happen to be someone who's sitting on some money in your IRA or savings account and looking for a way to earn 8% or more using that money, we can always use one more or two more clients. Give us a call.
which, by the way, and also you can go to Best of Investing and see Mark there. Mark and I are actually going to be starting an additional show on top of the Best of Investing called Mortgage Investing 101. That's going to be on.
Yes,
a
indeed.
There you
channel-
go. There's that
the
financial
Sister channel.
literacy.
Sister channel. There you go.
Sister Clear Channel.
Yeah, Sister Clear Channel, 960 a.m. KNEW at 10 a.m. So people can hear us there and then switch over to the Best of
And that's
Investing at 1
starting
p.m.
August 3rd.
Yep, and
Saturday,
it'll be simply
Good
talking
luck.
about that. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's awesome.
it ought to be very interesting. Quick little thing here before we cut out. CEO pay rising 16%. So the typical CEO is making 15.1 million. Are you making 15.1 million?
I've never thought
not
of
He's
it.
not
In
a
my
typical
dreams.
CEO.
Not a typical one. Okay, so it's so funny. They say here about corporations deducting them from income taxes, and that's not fair. But then the thing is that they're deducting on the taxes, but then the individual CEO is having to report that
Pay
in his
income
W-2.
taxes.
Yeah, he's going to pay income taxes on it. Yeah.
In theory.
In theory, Apple Computer avoided almost 9.2 billion taxes by using debt to finance part of the $55 billion stock buyback. They issued bonds to pay for some of it, as opposed to bringing some of the $100 billion in cash overseas, which would have been taxed at 35%. Those rascals. Okay, we are going to cut out here. Here's our thoughts for the day. And that's actually our blunders of the day, right? On Tesco, I've never heard of Tesco. Tesco's tiramisu dessert box, it says, "Do not turn upside down," which was printed on the box, on the bottom of the
On
box.
the bottom.
Gee, that's a little late for that warning. And on a bag of Fritos, "You could be a winner. No purchase necessary. Details inside." And that must be the shoplifter special.
Yes.
Okay, so tune in next week to the Best of Investing, because we're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia question. And next week's guest is going to be Adam Brown of Hilltop Kia to discuss leasing versus buying a car. You're not going to want to miss it.
That's always a good one.
That's
a
always a
good
good one. Yeah, 'cause he's
conversation
going to be
to have.
discussing the differences between leasing and buying, and I don't know if he's going to get into tax things. Issues, but he's also going to have a special offer for our listeners. And the reason I'm having
Free
him
car.
on is because we just bought a Kia. I'd heard of Kia, but I'd never really paid attention to it. And
Yes.
we got a fantastic deal from them. Very happy with the car. In fact, we bought it for my daughter, and now I'm trying to steal it away from her and make her have my car instead. No, she's not going for that. So anyway, that'll be next week. We're going to have Adam Brown from Hilltop Kia. And thanks for listening. Hope you join us next week. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. We're wishing you the best of investing. So long. And that'll be a wrap.
I do.
Welcome. You're listening to the best of investing on Talk 910. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. And for those of you listening for the first time, here's our format. A few guys sitting around a bar, having drinks, without the drinks and without the bar, talking business with you, the audience listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender, and Robert Spinoza of RPM Mortgage. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Write that number down, 888-912-1190, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. Today's trivia theme is mythical creatures. We'll have some fun with that. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. And we're also on television, Comcast Channel 26 and AT&T Channel 99 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. We're all over the place. Go to www.bestofinvesting.com. Check us out. Okay, now we're going to get right into a very interesting predicament that Robert Spinoza has found. Robert, just take it away. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so, a lot of people out there are somewhat familiar with the Dodd-Frank bill, and maybe a smaller segment of those people are aware that in January of 2014, some additional restrictions are going to be placed on mortgage lenders as a result. Yeah, right. We're all chomping at the bit. But this case specifically caught my attention. Major bank and Ohio mortgage broker are being charged with discriminating against a couple with disabilities. So the long and short of it is that this couple goes to get a mortgage loan, and the underwriter for the loan comes back and requests from the borrowers, because they're qualifying with disability income, requests a physician's note, to document that the disability income will continue, presumably because they're trying to establish whether or not these individuals can pay the loan back over time.
Which is part of the Dodd-Frank Act, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. You have to prove that you can pay your mortgage.
That strikes at the heart of a provision in the Dodd-Frank bill, a core provision known as ATR, or ability to repay.
Yep.
So, the couple refuses to provide this letter.
Why?
It doesn't go on to say why. I'm sure we could figure out. But anyway, according to the Fair Housing Act, lenders may verify the amount and source of an applicant's income, but can't place higher standards of proof or qualification. So these people have sued. They've gone and they've said, we were discriminated against because we attempted to qualify with disability income, and this lender will not make this loan for us. What's especially interesting about this is the catch-22 it could potentially put lenders in. If these people prevail in court, what that's saying is to the lender, what it says to me is, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If I, as the mortgage originator, say to these individuals, I need to see additional documentation to establish your income, your potential for earnings over time, such that you can repay this loan, consistent with the ability to repay provision.
Which they have been doing by checking into your checking account and asking about your job, etc.
And all of the other restrictions that have been placed on individuals, as we know, restrictions have certainly become tighter over the last few years, and it's difficult for many to qualify. So this really strikes at the heart of a very, very difficult predicament that lenders are going to be put in, and we have to hope that the lending industry doesn't just retract and say, we're scared to make these loans, period.
I think this case is great, and I'm going to explain why. When you actually read this article, what it says is, broker and bank hammered by HUD for discrimination. So who's filing this lawsuit but the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is a government agency that is suing because a bank is following a government-sponsored
exactly right.
regulation.
Yeah, but they're following the wrong government.
Right. So Congress, which is the wrong government,
exactly,
passed a huge bill a couple of years back known as the Dodd-Frank, or Franken-Dodd, as we talk about it here, that a horrific pork-laden and regulation-laden atrocity that has served, in my opinion, and let me just speak frankly about this, has served really only to reduce consumer choice and to treat consumers like idiots.
That's right.
Like you're too stupid and you're not capable of making decisions on how you borrow money.
Mark, I don't understand.
So
You're the kind of borrower we're looking for.
So Congress, who we all know, created the environment that resulted in the subprime mortgage meltdown in 2008. We all know that, right? They passed a slew of regulations to force banks to make loans to people who didn't qualify because they thought it was great for everybody to own a home, even if they couldn't afford it. We have the subprime meltdown and the whole real estate debacle, and then those two brain surgeons, Frank and Dodd, decided to sponsor a bill laden with thousands of new regulations to make sure this never happens again.
But isn't Obama basically going back to, I think everyone needs to own a home?
Well,
Is he the one who's saying, or there's somebody saying
yeah,
that?
we'll see. So these new Frank Dodd, among the many Frank Dodd regulations that have been passed and handed down from above are, thou shalt not make a loan to someone who cannot demonstrate to you, Mr. Lender,
Right.
their ability to afford to make those loan payments. Sounds smart, sounds logical, but in practice, it is difficult.
Here's the funny thing is that for Mark, we'll get into exactly your business in a minute. This actually is really kind of good news for you.
It is good news for the private lending business.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we have to take good news with a grain of salt, only in the sense that like Mark said, if consumer choice is reduced, that's never good news. It might tip the scales in favor of one segment of the economy or another, but in general, when you see consumers losing options, which is something that will happen in January, that to me is troublesome only because I believe and have seen that the housing economy and a healthy housing economy is integral to the broader economy and the health of the broader economy. And I think the confusion that is engendered by a lot of these conflicting regulations causes lenders to retreat back to the safest place. And that may not be the one that is best for consumers, and it may not be the one that is best for the health of the housing economy in a true state.
Well, the funny thing is, they're not allowed to discriminate because of disability,
Right.
right? They're also not allowed to discriminate because of religion. So if a pastor wants to go buy a house and they start asking him questions, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to ask where my income comes from because I'm part of the church.
There are a lot of those in place already. We do have to deal with that. If you were dealing, for example, if you were dealing with a single mother and she just said, I'm not married and I have dependents, you can't take that any further. You know what I mean? You can't probe any further about, okay, well,
where's your income come from?
No, you can
that.
talk about where your income comes from, but the fact that she's a single mother, you cannot discriminate against her solely for that reason. So a lot of the things in the Fair Housing Act, that's good. Like,
Well, that wouldn't be very nice to discriminate against.
yes, but we have to appreciate that
nice.
we have to appreciate that laws are in place to protect people who might take advantage of that and say, "Oh, you're a single mother. I'm not going to make a loan to you."
I mean, she
because-
could be a widow.
Right.
She could have killed
Right.
her husband.
Right.
Who cares?
Right. Well, then,
The fact that she's a
you know about life insurance, so
yeah, exactly. That is true. Oh boy, I tell you. Okay, hey guys, we're going to cut to our first commercial break. The commercial break we are going to is commercial break number 1. The mythical creatures is
right.
our theme. Here's the question: what is the mythical creature who was half man, the body, and half bull, the head? Very scary looking thing. The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. What was the name of the mythical creature who was half man, the body, and half bull, the head? And as Mark pointed out earlier, it's not Red Bull. 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, your email address. Please speak slowly. Spell out your email 1 letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because the best of investing will be right back. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What was the mythical creature who was half man, the body, and half bull, the head, because he was bullheaded?
Minotaur.
Minotaur, that is correct. Very good. Okay, let's get right into email time here, and then when we come back, later on, we're going to revisit, as Mark pointed out in the break, the unintended consequences that happen sometimes. Okay, For Mark, we have here, it says, with what I've been hearing in the newspaper, it seems that the fix and flip investors have run their course. Is that your experience too?
So I'm broker and president for Pacific Private Money. We're a hard money, private money lender located in the Bay Area, and our business model is we make loans to real estate investors, including people buying, fixing, and flipping real estate. We've been doing it since 2008, all throughout this market that has corrected and, for the most part, is in recovery right now. And so that's a good question. You would be led to believe, depending on who you talk to in the marketplace today, that either it's a great market to be buying, fixing, and flipping, or it's a horrible market to be buying, fixing, and flipping. And you'd be right on both counts. Because real estate investors who are trying to find opportunities that are like on the MLS, the multiple listing service, those are basically that are publicly for sale and you're competing with other people. Right now there's still, even though it's cooling off a little bit now that we're going into fall, cooling off weather-wise and cooling off froth-wise in the real estate business, real estate industry, it's tough to find a deal that you can buy that isn't subject to multiple bids, and the price being bid up, and be able to then remodel and then resell that same property for a profit. It's difficult to do that. The people that are successful today at buying, fixing, and flipping are generally those who are successfully purchasing a property via short sale, and they may have made that bid 3, 4, 5, or 6 months ago. They may have made that offer, and it's worked its way through the short sale
Hopefully
process.
they didn't forget about it and do something else, and then suddenly you're approved.
Yeah. Oops. Now, so, but in fact, we have still plenty of applications coming in at Pacific Private Money for purchase loans for people buying, fixing, and flipping, and it's very typically a short sale, or it's an REO property that wasn't listed, that somehow they have a relationship either directly with an asset manager or indirectly through maybe a wholesaler with an asset manager. So there are people today that are able to bird dog purchase opportunities at or below market pricing. And I know that's hard for some people to believe that have been trying their hardest to find an opportunity to buy, fix, and flip a property, and they're not successful. So all I can say is that we're seeing it. We're not seeing any slack in demand for capital or transactions. So there, for those people who have really studied the real estate market and have been doing their networking and their homework and making lots of calls and inquiries and attending real estate investor events and learning the secrets and the ins and outs, and sometimes it's just through sheer serendipity that you've come across opportunities. Yeah, absolutely. But I will agree that if you're just looking through the newspapers and looking for the MLS listings for properties that are quote unquote fixers, and you're hoping to buy it and flip it for a profit, very, very skinny profits right now. In fact, a lot of guys are saying there's nothing out there. There's nothing out there at retail that I can buy.
I would think there's a little. I'm kind of surprised that the banks are still doing as much short sales. Are they? Because
absolutely,
with prices going up, are the banks kind of going, hey, wait a minute, why are we even taking a short sale?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of short sales out there that still exist, but we have to remember too, it's very geography specific. So some areas are still, they have not realized the appreciation we have here in the Bay Area. And I see still, with consistency, I see short sales in Southern California. And those just, to me, on the buyer's financing side, they appear to make sense. Like, short sale was the best thing for that seller to do.
And the other reason for short sales that are still happening with greater frequency than you would that you would expect by reading the newspapers, the reason there are still a lot of short sales is because there's just a lot of people who are trying to wait it out, and they've run out of time. I know specifically, I have an example of a friend of mine who's been holding on to a house he bought in 2005. He paid $1.2 million for it, and he thought that by now the market would have returned, and as it works out, the almost exact model in the same subdivision recently sold for, about $850,000. So he still has a long way to go to recover that investment. And he recently told me he's given up. He's going to let it go to short sale. He's tired of continuing to invest in a property that's underwater. So that's not that's not an isolated event. There are just people that they lose their job, something happens, death, drugs, and divorce are still three of the biggest components oftentimes for changes in a family dynamic or changes in income that leads you to no longer be able to afford your payment.
Yeah.
So
So it's not so much it is the bank still has to agree to
Right.
it, but it's
They still have to
Right.
agree.
Yeah, but
Right.
it's
You have to
the-
prove that hardship case too. It's not like they're going to agree to your short sale if you've got a ton of retirement accounts and other reserves and things like that you've had all
Well,
along.
but it's non-recourse financing generally on a private residence, so unless they're just really worried about their credit,
Right.
it's not as big a deal for them to walk away.
Right.
Interesting. So, Mark, for these people who are fixing and flipping, if they do find a deal, you can lend them the money.
Absolutely.
And for those people who want to invest with you, what kind of return are you giving them?
Most of our private lenders right now are earning anywhere from 8 to 10%.
Isn't that amazing?
On their money. Yeah, it's a pretty amazing. Yeah, we've
You
got.
know, I want to stop you right there because one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately with the run up in mortgage rates that everybody's been talking about. Have any of us gotten a notice from our bank on our money market account that our savings account or money market? No, that's not happening. So you're kind of
Anybody earning 2 or 3% of their money
Right,
market
so
account?
let's
yet,
put that in
CDs,
perspective.
That's true. I went from 0.00001 to 0.00002.
a rounding error.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Okay, and here's our thoughts for the day. I wonder how some people can keep up with their Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook. I can't even keep up with the Kardashians. Okay? And there are two types of human beings found on Facebook. One who gets enormous amounts of likes and comments on their posts, and the others are men. Tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. We're wishing you the best of investing. So long.